Hi everyone. Today is Sunday, August 23rd, 2020. Um it's about to be 6 months into the pandemic and essentially in living in the so-called new normal. Um I wanted to talk about a few things regarding this topic because I feel like there's a lot to unpack and to say about the pandemic itself, but at least for me, what has been the thing that has affected me the most is probably the mental aspect of coping with this pandemic and just the overall chaos and uncertainty that is happening in the world right now all at once. I do want to acknowledge though that in many ways I'm very grateful and lucky that I do have the circumstances that I have. I know that for a lot of people, they've lost family members, loved ones, friends. They've also lost their jobs, their households, their whole financial security. And for those people, I do want to pay my respect to your circumstances and give you my condolences. And, I know these might just seem like empty words, but I really, really am hoping and praying for the better for everyone and for all those people that have been deeply affected by this. But going back to the mental aspect of dealing with this pandemic, I recently read this article on The Atlantic called COVID Depression, and the title is Everyone Depressed? This was published on May 22nd, 2020. So not that long ago, but with these times, it kind of feels like that was a lifetime ago. So the main points of this article, it was essentially saying that with COVID and all the precarious circumstances that are happening at the same time, affecting everyone at once, essentially the guidelines of depression are expanding, whereas before depression was only defined in a way where it was supposed to treat only a certain part of the population, which was a very small percentage of the population. Now 50% of the US population is experiencing depressive symptoms. And essentially, if the healthcare response to this isn't adequate, you could see a potential second wave of death from COVID that isn't necessarily directly from the virus, but, because of people suffering from the mental and emotional repercussions of this whole situation. And it specifically talked about the two types or two groups of people that you're seeing in terms of how they are reacting to the pandemic. So you first have the group which they essentially describe as the people that you ask them, how are you doing? And they reply, fine. And they actually mean it. And then you have the second group of people who are on the opposite end of that spectrum, which are the people with a previous diagnosis and people with dysthymia, which is a depression that isn't necessarily as severe in the sense that you're on a suicidal level, but it is prominent enough and mild enough that it affects your day-to-day life. So it's kind of like a dulled out depression, to put it that way, but it still very negatively affects you. And then they also talked about the people in the gray area, which is essentially the people who are new to depression, people that are experiencing depressive symptoms in a real way for the first time, maybe in their lives, and how these people, you need to have an urgent intervention of essentially basic steps that they can take so that their symptoms don't escalate. And full disclosure, this topic is very important to me because I myself was diagnosed with depression at 14. That diagnosis was done in 2008, so it's been a while ago, and I can say for a fact that my teenage years and my college years were affected immensely by the feelings and just the way, just having depression. In college, though, it became more of an anxiety type of thing, but I think, depression was the main issue. And usually with these two illnesses, they go hand in hand. So it is not uncommon for somebody who has depression to develop anxiety, or if you first have anxiety to develop depression. And, just very briefly, I just want to say that after college, I took a long time to just do the work to address that. Just really, really think, okay, I can't necessarily go on in my life and be the person that I want to be, or pick the profession that I want to do, which at the time I wanted to be a researcher and do field work in anthropology. I can't be present and offer what I have to the world and to the people, especially in that area where they're doing more of a activist role in the communities that you research, if I feel this way. So I did a lot of stuff to essentially trace back my trauma, take steps back and sort of go all the way to early childhood as much as I could remember, and just journal things. And I read a lot of books. I took a lot of classes of, I was focusing on my hobbies. I did alternative medicine. I took a ayahuasca trip. So, I did a lot, and I was on hermit mode essentially for 3 years. And it wasn't really until, I would say, the end of 2018 where I was actually feeling like things were happening in my life. I finally became independent. I had a more stable, quote unquote, adult job. And, I got really into fitness. I was watching my diet. I just had a very, very strict routine. I remember that was the moment in my life where I thought, discipline is the thing that's going to save me. Discipline is the thing that makes sense. And it's the thing that has been missing my whole life. And if I'm just disciplined enough, I can build up the resilience and the proper care, and everything else is going to come together, and I will no longer have, problems with, anxiety or depression or whatever. And then, fast forward to now. I think personally for me, at the end of February, before the quarantine really started in the US, I did notice that I was spiraling a bit again. And obviously, I guess on a personal level, and I don't know about anybody that's listening, it's really hard to think that or admit to having a relapse when you put on so much work to become a better person and take care of yourself and learn how to be with yourself and have very specific, I guess, hobbies and things that you cling to nourish yourself, and to have that sort of not, I don't know how to explain it, I guess, not be effective anymore, or simply you just don't feel, I don't know, you just don't feel right, I guess. And now with COVID, and it's very weird because, for someone that already had a condition of depression or anxiety, an existing condition, and they've been living with it, it's just weird to see how externally that depression and anxiety it's out there too. I don't know if that makes sense. Like before, at least the depression and anxiety was only really in me, and I knew, well, this is my stuff. Something I could probably address on my own, or talk with my friends or whatever. But it was like it was my anxiety or depression. And now it's like it's sort of everywhere. Like there isn't really something that gives me that peace and comfort that I used to be able to find before. At least to me, one big thing that was helping a lot was going to the gym and having that routine. And we don't have that anymore. Yeah, it's just been really weird to find meaning again and purpose, but not in like the whole universal love type of thing, because I still think that's very real. I don't particularly question the existence of the universe or souls or earth or life on earth. It's not really that. It's more so like just this way of living that we have. If before it was already sort of hard to really accept it and kind of see, like what, okay, makes sense, like why we live the way we live. Like now, seeing the foundations crumbling, or at least like, well, yeah, they are crumbling, and we don't really have anything to fall back on. We are being blatantly, constantly disappointed by their leadership. The systems that are supposed to take care of us aren't necessarily doing that. And it's just a lot of weird feelings, like, well, not weird feelings, just very difficult, lost, mourning, senselessness, emptiness, disconnected, disassociated. Essentially, the depression within the depression, it just seems deeper this time around than when I had it before. I feel like the first time I had depression, and when it was really, really bad back then, it was very self-directed. I could easily just say, even though there were flawed thoughts, that okay, it's because I'm not this way, or it's because this and that. And it was all about me and my life and what I didn't like. And I know there were thoughts about like, oh, well, why do we have to go to school? Or like, why do we have to get a job? Why do we have to do this and that? But I feel like in the end, I just knew, well, whatever, I'll just play along, and I'm sure it'll work out. I'll get a good job. I'll go to a good college. At the very least, I'll have that peace, or, stability. Not necessarily peace, but stability. And now it's kind of like not even that.